Yes, I pirated footage for this video, sue me. I paid my $8 to watch this in theaters. This is my God-given right. For a long time, Pixar has been that studio that used to be good, and judging by recent developments, that might not be changing. So for months, Inside Out 2, a sequel to a beloved film that I consider to be one of my all-time favorites, ended up representing a sort of boundary between two eras of Pixar. It started to seem like this might be the last chance for Pixar to do something good, and I was really worried they'd mess it up, precisely because it's Inside Out 2. Part 1, why I was worried. So there are two issues that seem to plague basically every sequel: a lack of original ideas and a lack of an emotional center, and you can see this pretty well in all of the trailers. For Moana 2, this is gonna make sense, I promise, except for this 2-second shot with this Leviathan thing at the end. Everything about this movie, based on the trailers, seems entirely reused. Remember when Moana hit the drums and then the thing happened? Remember when Maui said "Chee-hoo" and turned into a bird? Remember these coconut people? Remember when Chicken?
Boat snack! Oh! Boat snack upgrade! Bacon and eggs? Why didn't you bring the pig last time?
Remember Boat Snack? That's so funny. Remember the last movie, guys? I want to spend $8 at my local movie theater this November and watch Moana 2. I want to buy a new Moana toy because this time she has flowers in her hair, and that's almost one substantial difference. You might also be able to notice that in all of the trailers we've gotten, not once have we actually gotten any hint about what the movie's actual plot is.
This is a call from the ancestors to sail to new skies and reconnect our people across the entire ocean.
Really think about that. What does that mean? And what does it mean for Moana's growth as a character? Seemingly nothing? The plot doesn't even have to be great. The original movie's plot isn't very complex, but it has an emotional center that gets us invested in that plot. It's very clear what Moana wants, and it's very clear how she grows. And I hope all of this ages horribly and Moana 2 is actually a great movie, but so far it seems like Moana isn't going to want anything or grow in any way. Another example, which is probably even more glaring, is the Paddington 3 trailer that just came out. But to be completely honest, that made me so angry that I can't even get into it right now. This movie looks so abysmal and it makes me so sad. Point is, these two issues, lack of original ideas and lack of an emotional center, are pretty prevalent in a lot of bad sequels. Often they go together, but they don't have to. One can be just as damaging as both, which is exactly why the trailers for Inside Out 2 scared me. Yes, we can finally talk about the movie now. Now, on the one hand, these trailers had plenty of creative and innovative ideas. A brainstorm, the stream of consciousness, the sarcasm, all of the new emotions. Effort was clearly put into this movie. But I was still really worried about the emotional center because this film really looked like it was poised to just completely recycle the moral of the first one. So at the end of Inside Out 1, in case you forgot or haven't seen it or something, Joy finally came to terms with sharing control with the other emotions. She learned that all emotions have their place and their value. What a great theme. I sure hope there's never a sequel about more emotions and the ensuing conflict, but it's not about that at all. Part 2, how they avoided the issue. To be fair, it is about the ensuing conflict, but it's different though. Instead of Joy trying to be controlling again, now it's the opposite. Now she's worried if she even has any value at all. And that's a cool new way to take the story. And the new emotions actually contribute to the plot in a meaningful way. I thought that anxiety would just be like a lame derivative of fear, but she absolutely wasn't. I really like her arc and how it kind of parallels the one Joy had last time. In a lot of ways, this is kind of her movie, and I'm here for it. She's a great character, and the other three aren't bad either. I was worried they wouldn't have enough to do, but they all get exactly the right amount of screen time. Like, yes, Envy doesn't really do much except say envious things, but that's literally fine. Are you telling me Disgust does anything except say disgusted things? And another thing that they did to augment the emotional core was to increase the focus on the real world stuff this time around. A lot of people think that the original movie should have included more of Riley so that we could get more invested in the story, and even though that wasn't a problem for me, I will admit that this movie does actually improve things in that respect. It's actually probably better than the original in this way. Riley feels more like a real person now, and her world and her worries feel more personal to us. All of the complex and awkward parts of growing up and trying to fit in and overthinking are presented so well. There were several ways I thought the story would go, but it ended up going slightly different, and I really liked it. The whole movie takes place at a hockey camp, which sounds just so boring, but they actually make it work. I liked Riley's friends, I liked Valentina, and no, Riley is not a lesbian. You guys can calm down now. You are free to watch this movie and to let your kids watch this movie without being corrupted by the woke mind control device that's apparently at Disney HQ. I won't say that the emotional center of this movie is better than the originals, because that's a crazy claim that is also not true, but it works really well still, and it's pretty close anyway, and certainly a lot closer than I ever could have hoped for. Part 3, the creativity thing. There are tons of new creative ideas everywhere, just like I knew there would be, and it was honestly even more expansive than I thought. I can't really get into a lot of it without spoilers, but I will say that I really think they nailed it. There are almost as many wacky and cool new ideas here as there were in the first movie. I'll admit that a few things were definitely recycled from the first movie. I do vaguely recall seeing Joy scroll through memories while sitting on a pile of discarded memories and reflecting on the movie somewhere before, can't quite put my finger on it, but it's never in copious amounts, and that's really the only time I ever have a problem with it. Part 4, the rest. The animation is also good, although that probably goes without saying because it's Pixar. The trailers all had this stupid Snapchat looking filter over all the IRL stuff, and that really concerned me because, like, it looked really bad, but don't worry, that's not a thing. This place that I can't describe without spoiling things looks great. I like the sprinkling of 2D animation here and there, which I also can't describe without spoilers, and the Smash Bros. Brawl looking guy might be my favorite Pixar character ever now. I wasn't sure how well this movie would hold up on rewatch, but the conclusion ended up being pretty much perfect. Everything was just wrapped up really nicely, and I felt very satisfied by the way everything was resolved, and that was enough to make me pretty confident that I'll still actually like this movie equally tomorrow. This is another one of those videos that I'm gonna try to make in one day. I was kinda hoping for some more bangers in the soundtrack, and it might just be because I was more focused on watching the movie than listening to the music, but I didn't notice that many. The only times the score caught my attention were when the Bundle of Joy leitmotif started playing, and that's not even from this movie. No such masterpieces like the eloquently named Nomanison Island / National Movers this time, so that's a bit disappointing, but not the end of the world, and I might find something in the OST later anyway. Overall, I was just a big fan of how this movie was paced. There were never any big points that dragged things down or made things too boring. The story went in enough new and intriguing directions to make this movie actually worth making and watching, and there are still deep existential questions at the heart of the narrative to make the film valuable for people of all ages. It's a sensible, logical, good continuation of the first movie, even if it isn't quite as good as the first movie. But considering that Inside Out 1 is probably in my top 3 Pixar movies anyway, that's really not saying much. It's one of the only movies in recent memory that I felt happy about watching on the way out of the theater instead of just, well, that was 2 hours, and I would definitely support the dying cinema industry and the dying Pixar animation studio by going to your local movie theater and checking it out. It's not Inside Out 1, but it is Inside Out 2, and that still puts it above pretty much every Pixar movie since Inside Out 1. I give this movie an 8 out of 10.